Welcome to State Scoop TV. I'm Jake Williams. I'm here today with Chip George. He's the Senior Director of State and Local Government and Education for NetApp. How you doing, Chip?
I'm doing great.
So Chip, I have some questions for you. So from your perspective, what are the top three priorities that states should be looking at?
Well, from our perspective, which is the data center and infrastructure part of the interaction with the state, we see a number of key priorities, and we get a chance with a pretty big SLED group now, that's state, local, and education. We get a chance to work with people across the country. And the key themes we see, although it's kind of hard to sum up themes across the country sometimes, but the key themes we see are that almost to a person, they are trying to streamline their operations. Right, the requests coming at them, the number of things that they're trying to get done far exceed their budget and personnel, right? So we get involved in things like doing converged infrastructure and considering cloud and consolidation efforts, and those things all help to streamline, right? So that's number one. Second thing is figuring out what you got, right? You can't optimize and consider consolidation or consider sending apps to the cloud unless you understand exactly what you have. So resource management is sort of the generic term, but we get interesting conversations when we say to people, do you really understand how your application is running from the virtual machine, through the networking, to the server, to the storage that connects it, right? A lot of times they have certainly general concepts and reports, but when they really want to know things like, okay, I know how that's laid out, but what is the change rate of that? How fast is that app growing versus that one? Those are key decisions when you're going to your boss's boss, or the governor, and you're asking for money, right? So streamlining operations is one, understanding what you got is two, and having a cloud plan is three, right? Some kind of strategy. We see people succeed who have a CIO or deputy CIO who's really tied into the cloud, or if they have someone that's cloud czar and they appoint them. Right? To have a strategy where you're actually trying to rationalize all your apps and figuring out what could go to the cloud and what couldn't, it's such a key part of the conversation these days, right? Because let's face it, the dream of cloud is this cheaper thing and faster time to market with applications. We've got to figure out if that will work, but there's tons of state-specific concerns about security and data control and not getting hacked, for goodness sakes, that they need to worry about.
Yeah, well, and the cloud is a great point, because we saw in the state CIO survey released today, that more states than ever have a cloud strategy. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
It's still early times with a lot of them, right? They're doing a lot of private cloud, but we're really working with a lot of states that are trying to embrace public cloud. We certainly are, as an organization, right? Whether you're going to some hyperscaler like Amazon or Google, or if you're going to one of the other regional players, right? You can actually use NetApp technology today to dive directly into that, right? And that's what we're excited to do with people, but they've got to have someone that's leaning forward on that.
Right. So what do you think is the most pressing challenge facing state and local government today?
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the priorities, it really goes back to number one. The most pressing challenge today is that states have budgets that are flat, maybe down 2% or up 3% or generally flat, right? And as I was just talking to someone this morning, they are just not recovering. It's the new norm, right? Flat is the new normal. But the requests they're getting are 10, 15, 40% more than they used to be. So you've got people that were elected not because they're saying, I need better IT. They're elected because they say, hey, I'm going to provide better services in public safety or child welfare, et cetera, right? I mean, transportation maybe. But that's going to have an offshoot to IT. There's a whole bunch you're going to need to get done. And when they turn to the IT person, they say, I just got elected, you need to do this. Then the question isn't, here's all this extra money for you to do it. They say, well, I know there's an IT component to this project, but can't you just do things cheaper and better? Right? So again, streamlining and optimizing, that is the number one challenge. People have to get used to the fact they're not getting more people, they're not getting more money. Technology has to help, and that's where we're getting involved.
And so, I mean, again, we talked a little bit about the state CIO survey that came out today, but what are you seeing across the country when it comes to cloud and cloud adoption, and where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
Yeah, cloud, again, as we talked about, is a huge dream that they can provide tons of benefit, right? But yeah, how to do that is exactly the challenge. So what we're seeing is that people are kind of doing two things. For one, they're actually picking key applications that could go to the cloud. Like SaaS, the software as a service, right? And that's good, that's fine, right? But then there's a whole bunch of security concerns and other concerns, performance measures, that they have to look at those apps and say, I'm not sure we're going to try that yet. So most people are kind of in that mode when it comes to public cloud. They're using SaaS, they're keeping some primary applications on site, and then they're looking at other categories. So beyond the primary applications, they're saying, hey, what are the less important, the less critical primary applications? Maybe I could try those in the cloud. Maybe I can do other general things that aren't primary data, like backup in the cloud, or test and dev in the cloud. That's not real data, right? It's test data, it's development data, or DR in the cloud, right? Now, if there's a disaster, your data would actually be running in the cloud, but again, that's only once in a while, right? And then you have a real testable DR strategy. So, SaaS, test and dev, DR, backup, those are the things that we're seeing people do with public cloud, but more often than not right now, they're rolling out private clouds, right? They're taking their data center that's run well for a long time, and they're actually turning it into a private cloud. What's that mean? They're adding orchestration and automation so customers can actually order and provision new services quickly, know exactly how much they're getting charged if there's a chargeback, right? And they're running that as a private cloud, right? That's where we spend a lot of time with people too, while also saying, hey, when you're ready, here's how you can go to the public cloud.
That's interesting that you set up use the private cloud as a way to get in, and use the public cloud as to tee up the strategy for the public cloud.
That's exactly right. Yeah. You got to go again. Most people, not that we're recommending that. Most people are saying that's where we're at. We want to try this private cloud format first, and we're absolutely going to go to the public cloud. And again, some of the ways they go there is by saying, not ready for my key applications, but I will try some of these other things.
Yeah, so elaborate on that a little bit more, and tell me a little bit about how you're helping states who are reluctant to invest time and resources in cloud, and how you're helping them, nudge a little bit forward and move closer.
Yeah, there's two kinds of people, right? If they're reluctant because they just don't like the cloud, they say, look, I was elected and I'm not going to the cloud. Oh, okay, we're helping them with private clouds. We're helping them with their on-prem data center. If they're saying they're reluctant because I want to go, I just don't know what to do next, then yeah, we spend a lot of time with them. We will go through, this is the state's favorite word, for free. And we'll look at all their applications, right? Because you got to look at applications carefully to figure out if they're going to go to the cloud. Is it written in a format that can be transported directly to the cloud? I mean, there's requirements, right, for how things need to run in the cloud. Is it a security concerns, like that data, again, maybe could be near the cloud. You could use compute from the cloud, but you better not put those terabytes actually in the cloud, right? If it has PII, personally identifiable information, or if it has HIPAA data or has CGIS data in the public safety world, right? We need to categorize those apps as kind of hard to go to the cloud with, right? And then we need to look at very busy apps, right? And say, hey, there could be a performance concern, so maybe it could go to the cloud, but we need to get a really fat pipe to the cloud. We need to get a cloud that's proximity-wise close enough in terms of network hops. So those are the things that we'll do, and we call it, the official name's a service design workshop, but typically they're very successful in kind of taking a look at holistically at your environment and saying, hey, here's a plan to get to the cloud.
Fascinating. So you mentioned DR. Who in the state IT community is doing DR really well? What makes their strategy effective? What can other states learn from that?
Yeah, DR is it's an interesting subject because a lot of times you get in conversations, no one's that excited about DR. I tell you, it's like backup, But disaster recovery, the states that are doing it well are states that have invested in a tool and have figured out whether it's going to be in a public cloud DR or it's going to be at another data center, how to get there in a way that they have a couple things. They have real failover, right? A lot of times you talk to people and say, what's your DR strategy? Oh, we have this data running at the other site. And I say, well, okay, so you have the servers running there with the applications on them and a recent copy made. They go, oh no, we don't have all that. We just replicate the data. There may be a tape concept that is just tape. So their recovery strategy then is once there's a disaster to go get that data, bring it back, reload it, get it running. Okay, the ones that are successful, right, and there's a number of states that have done things like this, actually have a failover site. I mean, this can be failed over in an acceptable amount of time to all the application owners, to the governor, to whoever, right, with a specific, what they call RPO and RTO. So they can fail over to that site and run it, right? The second thing is that the very successful states have done it in a way that they can actually test. Because it's one thing to have that all set up and have it replicated, but sometimes the levels of tools you put together to achieve that are actually really, really hard to test. And you got to put down your primary site to do it. right? So again, what we're helping people do is achieve that good DR and achieve it in a way that's testable monthly or weekly or whenever you want to do it.
That's fascinating. Well, Chip, thanks for chatting with us today, and thank you for all those great insights.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
For more about cloud, DR, and all the various types of technologies we've discussed today, check out statescoop.com. And for all the latest news and events, check out the Daily Scoop newsletter available right on the site. I'm Jake Williams. Thanks for watching.